So you're a care partner and you're worn out, or you're so exhausted you can't even imagine that there will be a tomorrow. Or are you the person with Parkinson's and you're really worried about your care partner because he or she could expire or get sick? And then what would you do? So in either of these cases, where would you begin? How would you start? What are you looking for? Hello, I am Jo Rosen, president of Parkinson's Resource Organization, and I'm here to bring you things to know right now. And I am so happy to be introducing you to Kerry Goss, a young lady that I've known for more than 7 years, and she is the owner of Senior Helpers of the Desert. Welcome, Kerry, and thanks for being here today. Tell us a little bit about you and Senior Helpers of the Desert.
Well, thank you, Jo. It's nice to see you. It's been a little while. Let's see. So I began Senior Helpers here in the Coachella Valley about 12 years ago. And it really, my goal is to help others as much as I possibly can. It brings some positive feelings to others and to myself as well.
It's kind of in your DNA, isn't it?
Yeah.
A regular care person. Yes. So I want to thank you and your caregivers for being out on the front lines for all of us, and especially those that you've been helping. They've risked themselves in order to comfort and care for others, and that is truly frontline heroism. So, but let's, now we've got the restrictions lifting, et cetera, at least here in California. So what does that look like for senior helpers and you and the caregivers? Is it easing up the tensions behind COVID-19?
I think just from having a little bit of time to see what's going on, I think that has helped alleviate some tensions. Also, we've taken some actions to make sure that the caregivers and clients are feeling well before they go to work. So we've asked the caregivers to take their temperatures, to wear a mask, to wear gloves, and also check in with the client prior to going to make sure that they're feeling well. As far as what's going on now, I think that remains to be seen a little bit. I think that some people that may have taken their families out of skilled nursing or maybe a rehab or something or assisted living, that they're with the family now, but the family may not be working and the kids may be at home. So they're helping with their loved one and keeping them safe. So that's what I've seen so far.
I'm so happy to hear, because you're the first one of the agencies. We've had a couple on before talking about what they've done in order to get themselves prepared for COVID-19 on both sides, because we've got the family that is concerned about bringing in a caregiver. We've got the caregivers concerned about going into a family where there could be COVID-19. And so it's been a scary time, to be sure. But let's jump into, because we're going to move into the future a little bit. And I know that Senior Helpers teaches their people, their caregivers, how to deal with people with Parkinson's. Can you give the audience some idea of what gets done in teaching caregivers how to work with Parkinson's people?
Let's see, first of all, we have 2 forms of training. One is online, and we also have self-study at home modules that you would read about the subject or the illness, that type of thing. So with some of the training, some of it is very general, such as infection control, how to handle medical emergencies, but then specifically, we have modules and training on how to care for those with Parkinson's and with dementia. I know sometimes those 2 things go together, not always.
Yeah.
And then also how to care for people that need assistance with activities of daily living. Those can be very challenging for the caregiver providing the care at home, the loved one providing the care. And that seems to be a big area where we help, I would say, the most. is with the activities of daily living.
Yes, I mean, obviously, well, yes. Having lived with a person with Parkinson's, when they can't move, they're like dead weight, and it becomes very frustrating for the care partner. It's amazing. And as you and I have spoken over and over, people with Parkinson's want to stay at home the rest of their life. They would prefer to stay home than go into a facility. And in doing so, the partner in care cannot do it by him or herself. They need the support of someone, and so they need to reach out to a Senior Helpers of the Desert, for instance. But where do they begin, Kerry? What should they start thinking about, knowing that they may need a caregiver in the future, an outside caregiver? What should they be thinking about putting together in order to talk with you, to ask you to start looking to cover their needs?
So I suggest looking at your day, looking at your whole routine. What starts in the morning? What transpires after the morning? Are we doing bathing? Are we changing? Are we feeding? Are we making beds, doing laundry? Are we preparing meals? I mean, there's a whole gamut of the entire day going on. So I suggest that people look at their daily routine and identify what activities are the most difficult to do personally, or that there's so much activity to do in a certain part of the day that you could use the help. So sometimes I find that that the partner in care doesn't want to give up necessarily some of those activities of daily living, but they need some help in completing them because they can really be kind of physically exhausting, like helping shower someone and dress someone. So sometimes it works well with the caregiver and the partner in care to work together. And it's a good way too to learn actually how the family has been performing the routines. We want to keep that the same, and yet at the same time the caregiver can go ahead and bring in some ideas. Let's say the partner in care doesn't really know how to do a transfer, so with the caregiver there, they can give them some tips on how to make it easier for both their loved one and the partner in care. So I think sometimes working together is very helpful, and then I think the caregiver can usually take over. But other things too, the partner in care likes to maintain, let's say they like to do the meal preparation and the light housekeeping or laundry. The caregiver could do that too. It's whatever really helps the team at home, really, the partner in care and the loved one needing the care.
It's really a collaboration, isn't it? Between the partner in care, the outside caregiver, and the person needing the care. It's and so long as there's good communication, but I think they should also be making lists of the kind of person that they want. Do they want a man or a woman? Do they want is ethnicity critical because they eat a certain way and they want their meals prepared a certain way? But some of the things that come in here, people will say, well, my person sleeps so much during the day. I don't know what a caregiver would do.
Mm-hmm.
Any ideas of how to respond to that?
Yes, and that's very possible. Again, we're looking at, let's say there's the morning routine, which is a lot of work for the partner in care. Maybe that's the time that you want the caregiver there for the, 4 hours or whatever that it takes to get those things completed. And then you wouldn't really, if you're okay with still doing the other household chores or transportation or grocery shopping, you don't require the caregiver for that, then you can go ahead and focus on those items. And sometimes focusing on those items when the caregiver's there helping out with the morning routine, then you've lightened up your load a bit so that you can focus on the other things and get out of the house, go do your prescriptions or groceries.
Or just go to lunch with a friend or do something that can create quality of life in your life, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. That's so good. I'm glad that I brought that up and I bring it up each time just because caregivers really are there for the comfort of everyone involved, and they do a tremendously good job. I'm going to bring up again, because people don't really know the difference between an agency like yours that hires their caregivers, pays the employment taxes, and keeps the workers' comp insurance and all of that up, versus a referral agency? Can you kind of shed some light on the benefits of hiring a you versus hiring a referral agency?
The background checks, and we're licensed with the state, all of that, those are important things. And in most instances, I think the agency itself is been working with the caregiver, so you get to understand their personality, what type of person they would work well with. You get to know their skills. Those are all really important things when helping matching a caregiver with a client. Okay. On the other hand, a referral agency doesn't necessarily do background checks. They don't necessarily know all the skills of their subcontractors, I'll call them. They're frequently 1099, so they need to watch their own taxes and make sure they pay them at the end of the year.
That's a really critical point, Kerry, because the people who hire the caregiver or the caregiving agency, so when they hire you, they're hiring the agency and you handle all of the paperwork. When they hire through a referral agency, the person hiring becomes the employer, and they need to really know that that means that they have to take care of the payroll taxes. It's not a 1099 situation, and there are legal reasons for knowing that it's not a 1099 situation. And the sad thing is when people hire off the cuff or off the grid or whatever you want to call that, and then they let the caregiver go for whatever reason, and then the caregiver goes for unemployment insurance, and all of a sudden the state comes back to the couple or the whoever hired the agency or the caregiver and says, incidentally, you now need to not only pay the back taxes, but you also are going to pay the interest and the penalties and everything else for that. So I just think that part of what we do today is to make sure that our audience knows that there is a difference in agencies, and that the ones that Parkinson's Resource Organization is bringing to the forefront are agencies that are employment agencies. They hire their own caregivers. But having said all of that, is there anything particular that you think our audience should know? Anything that you'd like to add that you think would be critical?
I'd like to thank you for doing all that you do and for making this opportunity not only for your wellness villagers, but also for people out there that are needing the assistance and may need a caregiver to get them through some of their days.
Thank you. We do. We offer a service that not very many do. So the Wellness Village is people like you. They are vetted. We know that they're extraordinary people, that they are people with high integrity, and I would have them in my house, and that's how I know that they have high integrity. They're licensed and they're in good standing with their licensure, etc. So I say to the audience, not only go to the Wellness Village and find the resources that we can bring to you and that we know are good people, but watch also the monthly newsletter. Kerry puts articles together and submits them for the monthly newsletter. She's going to be a speaker at our village meetings, which we just launched in the month of May. And we'll continue. These are in lieu of having what we used to call speaker meetings or educational meetings. They're all virtual, they're all online, and Kerry should be coming up soon to present for 30 minutes about caregiving, where you the audience have an opportunity to ask questions and different questions than I've asked. So watch for Kerry. I can say to you the following: I've known her for 7 years. She's been in the village, I don't know how long, but we have not had a complaint. As a matter of fact, we always get gratitude notes and thank you notes about Kerry and the caregivers that she provides our people. So Kerry, I cannot thank you enough for being in the desert and doing what you do for the people that depend on us. You're really a gem, and I appreciate having you in our sphere of influence.
Oh, thank you so much, Joe.